Have you ever noticed how exhausting it feels to constantly ask, beg, and plead with God for the things you desire most in life? What if I told you that this very approach, the one most of us have been taught since childhood, is actually blocking the abundance, healing, and peace you're seeking? But before we begin, please hit the like button and let me know where in the world you're watching from today. It's always fascinating seeing who's joining us from around the world. And if you haven't already, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any of our future videos. Has this ever happened to you? You pray intensely for financial abundance, yet find yourself sinking deeper into scarcity. You beg for healing, only to feel your symptoms intensify. You plead for divine guidance, yet feel more confused than ever. There's a profound reason for this paradox, and it lies at the heart of what spiritual teacher Joel Goldsmith discovered after decades of seeking. What most spiritual traditions never tell you is that every time you ask God for something, you're actually affirming its absence in your life. When you pray for healing, you're declaring to the universe, I am sick. When you beg for abundance, you're proclaiming, I am in lack. This creates an energetic wall between you and the very things you're trying to manifest. Stay with me until the end of this video, because what you're about to discover might completely transform your relationship with the divine and unlock a flow of grace you never thought possible. Joel Goldsmith, after years of spiritual searching, stumbled upon a revolutionary truth that contradicted everything he had been taught about prayer. The secret he uncovered was deceptively simple, yet profound. Stop asking and start receiving. The divine isn't withholding anything from you. Infinite abundance, perfect health, deep peace, and profound wisdom are already flowing toward you in every moment. The shift from asking consciousness to receiving consciousness is subtle but transformative. Instead of approaching God with clenched fists and desperate pleas, imagine opening your hands in quiet receptivity. Imagine recognizing that what you seek is already yours in the spiritual realm, and your only task is to align your awareness with that truth. Think of it like a radio that's always broadcasting beautiful music. The music doesn't start when you turn on your receiver. It was always playing. You simply tuned in. In the same way, divine supply isn't activated by your asking. It's already flowing. Your spiritual practice is simply learning to tune in to what's already present. What happens in your consciousness when you make this shift? What if changing this one aspect of your spiritual practice could transform every area of your life? The stories I'm about to share with you will demonstrate. If you're ready to continue this journey of spiritual transformation, hit subscribe and join our community of seekers who are learning to shift from asking to receiving. I share powerful insights that can change your relationship with the divine. The transformation begins when you truly understand that you're not separated from divine supply. You're immersed in it. This mindset revolution completely changes your spiritual journey. Let me explain this more deeply through the radio metaphor that Joel Goldsmith often used in his teachings. Imagine the universe as an infinite broadcasting station, continuously transmitting divine ideas, abundance, healing, guidance, and love. These transmissions don't start when you pray. They're perpetually flowing. Just as radio waves pass through your walls and fill the space around you whether your radio is on or not, divine intelligence and supply are present in every moment, regardless of whether you're consciously aware of them. Your consciousness is the receiver. When you're in asking mode, it's like having a radio with poor reception. The signal is there, but distortion and static prevent you from experiencing the clarity and beauty of the broadcast. When you shift to receiving mode, you're fine-tuning your receiver, removing the interference, and suddenly the music plays clearly. This is the hidden truth behind what Joel called practicing the presence. It's not about making God show up in your life. It's about tuning your awareness to recognize what has always been present. The revelations that come through this practice aren't new information being created. They're eternal truths you're finally able to perceive because you've cleared away the static of separation consciousness. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic by explaining the profound energy shift that occurs when you move from asking to receiving. These two approaches create completely different vibrational signatures in your being, and this makes all the difference in your manifestation journey. When you're in asking mode, your energy field resonates with lack, limitation, and separation. There's an underlying desperation that says, I am incomplete without this thing I'm asking for. I need God to give me something I don't have. This vibration actually repels what you're seeking because it reinforces the very separation you're trying to overcome. Receiving consciousness carries an entirely different energy signature. It vibrates with fullness, gratitude, and union. It quietly acknowledges, what God has, I have. What God is, I am. This isn't spiritual arrogance. It's the recognition of your true identity as an expression of divine being. It's understanding that separation from your good was always an illusion created by limited perception. The impact of this shift goes far beyond spiritual theory. When your energy field changes from begging to receiving, your entire experience of reality transforms. Decisions that seemed impossible suddenly become clear. Opportunities that were invisible suddenly appear before you. Relationships that were strained begin to heal, not because you're manipulating others, but because you're relating from wholeness rather than neediness. The behind-the-scenes work of this practice happens in those quiet moments when you sit in receptive awareness, allowing divine intelligence to flow through your consciousness without interference. Write in the comments, I'm tuning my receiver, if you're ready to shift from asking to receiving in your spiritual practice. So how do we actually practice this receiving consciousness? The beauty of Joel Goldsmith's teaching is that the practice itself is remarkably simple, though mastering it requires a journey of dedicated attention. The practice doesn't demand complicated rituals or elaborate visualizations. It's accessible to anyone willing to shift their mindset about how spiritual connection works. Begin by setting aside just 10 minutes of quiet time. Find a comfortable space where you won't be disturbed. Instead of approaching this time with your usual shopping list of needs and wants, the promotion you desire, the relationship you crave, the healing you seek, simply sit in stillness and say within yourself, I am now open to receive all that God is giving me. Notice the profound paradigm shift in that simple statement. You're not asking for anything specific. You're not trying to manifest particular outcomes. You're simply acknowledging the flow that's already present and opening yourself to it. This is the essence of spiritual receptivity, recognizing that divine substance is already pouring into every dimension of your life. Allow yourself to feel like an open channel. Don't force anything. Don't strain to visualize specific outcomes. Simply be receptive, like the earth receives rain, like your lungs receive air, like a flower receives sunlight. This natural, effortless spiritual breathing creates space for revelation and intuitive wisdom to emerge. The hidden truth behind this practice is that it reverses years of conditioned thinking about your relationship with the divine. We've been taught that prayer is about convincing God to act on our behalf. This revolutionary approach suggests that God is already acting. Your only task is to align your awareness with what's already happening. Let me share a powerful real-world example that illustrates the impact of this seemingly subtle shift. Maria had been praying desperately for financial breakthrough for 3 years. Every month brought mounting debt and increasing anxiety. Her asking had become almost violent in its intensity. She would literally shake her fists at heaven, demanding God answer her prayers. Yet her situation only worsened, creating a vicious cycle of spiritual frustration. When Maria discovered Joel Goldsmith's teaching on receptivity, her initial reaction was resistance. "If I stop asking, God will forget about me," she protested. But desperation made her willing to experiment. For 30 days, she practiced simply receiving instead of asking. Each morning and evening, she would sit quietly, opening her consciousness to divine supply. The journey wasn't instantaneous. The first 2 weeks felt empty, almost frightening. Nothing seemed to be happening externally, but internally something was shifting. The constant knot of anxiety in her chest began to loosen. A strange peace replaced her panic. By week 3, unexpected opportunities started appearing. A freelance project, a debt forgiven, a forgotten refund check. 6 months later, Maria's financial situation had completely transformed. The most profound change, however, was in her relationship with the divine. She no longer approached God as a beggar, but as a beloved child receiving her inheritance. The outer abundance followed the inner shift in consciousness. Type, "I'm practicing receptivity," in the comments if you're ready to experience this transformation in your own life. Subscribe to deepen your practice of receptive consciousness. Every video is designed to help you remove the veils that block your recognition of divine abundance already flowing in your life. Maria's story demonstrates how receptivity can transform our financial circumstances, but the power of this practice extends to every dimension of life. Physical healing is another area where the shift from asking to receiving creates profound breakthroughs, as David discovered during his 5-year battle with a chronic health condition. David had exhausted himself with desperate healing prayers. He'd attended every prayer meeting, anointed himself with oil, declared healing scriptures, and done everything he believed would convince God to heal him. Yet his body remained sick. His asking had become almost angry at God for not responding to his faithful petitions. The turning point came when a friend introduced him to Joel Goldsmith's writings on spiritual healing. The concept startled him at first. What if healing wasn't something God needed to send, but something already present in his true spiritual nature? What if his asking was actually the obstacle preventing him from experiencing the wholeness that was already his? This revelation challenged everything David thought he knew about spiritual healing. Behind the scenes, a profound mindset shift was occurring. Instead of begging for healing, he began sitting quietly each day and affirming, "I am open to receive the perfect health that is my divine inheritance." He stopped fighting his symptoms and started resting in the presence of God. This wasn't denial of his condition. It was recognition of a deeper spiritual reality beyond physical appearance. Progress came gradually over many months. Some days were harder than others, but slowly symptoms began shifting. More importantly, fear released its grip on his consciousness. Within a year, medical tests confirmed what David already felt: significant improvement. His doctor called it spontaneous remission. David called it learning to receive what God had already given. The impact of receptivity also extends into our relationships, as Jennifer discovered in her journey to heal her troubled marriage. For years, she had prayed fervently, "Please change my husband, make him understand me, fix our communication." Her prayers were focused entirely on asking God to transform her partner and their circumstances. When Jennifer encountered Joel's teaching on receptivity, her initial response was resistance. "If I stop asking God to fix my marriage, it will definitely fall apart," she thought. But her current approach clearly wasn't working, so she decided to experiment with a different path. Instead of asking God to change her husband, she practiced receiving divine love and peace into her own consciousness. Each morning, she'd sit quietly and open herself to receive God's love, not asking for anything external to change, but allowing her inner being to be filled with divine presence. The transformation began subtly. She noticed herself responding differently to her husband, less reactive, more peaceful, genuinely more loving without effort or pretense. The revelation came when she realized that her shift in consciousness was creating ripples that affected their entire relationship dynamic. Over several months, something remarkable happened. As Jennifer changed her consciousness from asking to receiving, her husband began responding differently. Their relationship wasn't magically perfect, but genuine healing occurred through this journey of inner transformation rather than external manipulation. Share inner before outer in the comments if you've experienced how inner shifts create outer change in your life. Jennifer's story reveals how receptivity transforms relationships, but this principle applies equally to professional endeavors and business challenges. Thomas experienced this firsthand when his once thriving business collapsed, pushing him to the brink of bankruptcy. His initial response was classic asking consciousness, desperate negotiations with God. "I'll serve you forever if you just save my business. I'll give more to charity. I'll be a better person. Please, God, don't let me lose everything." His prayers were filled with fear, bargaining, and the exhausting energy of trying to convince God to rescue him. The blueprint for transformation arrived unexpectedly when he discovered a book someone had left behind at a coffee shop. The title immediately caught his attention, The Art of Spiritual Healing. Within those pages, Thomas encountered Joel Goldsmith's revolutionary approach to prayer. Instead of begging God for business success, he learned to practice receptive consciousness, opening himself to divine guidance and supply. Thomas began 20-minute daily sessions of simply receiving. "I am open to the infinite supply of God. I receive divine wisdom for my next steps. I rest in the knowledge that God's abundance is my abundance." The strategy shift was profound. He stopped the frantic energy of asking and entered the peaceful energy of receiving. Almost immediately, his mindset began to transform. The panic subsided, replaced by a quiet confidence. Then the breakthroughs started happening. Ideas began flowing. Connections appeared seemingly out of nowhere. Opportunities manifested in unexpected ways. Within 18 months, Thomas had not only recovered from near bankruptcy, but had created a more successful business aligned with his true purpose. The revelation wasn't just that his external circumstances had improved. It was the understanding that God hadn't been withholding anything. He'd simply been too busy asking to notice what was already being given. Receptivity opened his eyes to see and his hands to grasp divine supply that had surrounded him all along. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic by exploring the complementary practices Joel Goldsmith taught to help us fully embody receptive consciousness. While the core practice is simple, sitting in quiet receptivity, Joel offered several powerful techniques that deepen our ability to receive from God throughout our daily lives. The first is what he called the practice of the presence. Throughout your day, pause frequently and simply acknowledge, God is present here and now. This isn't asking God to show up. It's recognizing the divine presence that's already here. You can do this while washing dishes, driving, working, or waiting in line, brief moments of acknowledging presence. God is here. The infinite is expressing right where I am. Divine intelligence is operating in this situation. These micro-practices train your consciousness to remain in receptive mode rather than slipping back into asking mode. Another powerful technique is gratitude recognition. Not gratitude for what you want to receive, but for what's already being given that you haven't noticed. Thank you for the breath flowing into my lungs without my asking. Thank you for my heart beating without my requesting. This journey of transformation shifts you from future-focused asking to present-moment receiving. You begin recognizing the millions of gifts already flowing to you every second. Type "already receiving" in the comments if you're starting to notice the divine gifts you've been overlooking in your life. Joel also taught a powerful practice he called releasing treatment in his spiritual healing work. This concept introduces a radical paradigm shift that challenges our conventional understanding of how healing occurs. In traditional prayer, we identify a problem, illness, financial lack, relationship discord, and ask God to fix it. We treat the condition by focusing intensely on changing it. Joel discovered a more effective approach. We don't treat conditions at all. We treat our consciousness to receive the truth of wholeness that already exists. The distinction is subtle, but revolutionary. You're not trying to change reality. You're opening yourself to perceive reality as it truly is, in spiritual terms. When facing any challenge in your life, instead of asking God to remove it, practice this alternative. I release this situation to divine intelligence. I open myself to receive God's perfect solution. I rest in the truth that infinite wisdom is already resolving this in ways I cannot see. This approach creates a gateway for unexpected breakthroughs to emerge. This isn't passive resignation or spiritual bypassing. It's active receptivity, a profound recognition that God's intelligence is already at work in your situation. Your asking might actually interfere with divine solutions already in motion. Your receiving allows those solutions to become visible and manifest. It's the difference between pushing a river and floating with its current. Both involve water, but one exhausts you while the other carries you. The breakthrough insight here is understanding that you aren't convincing God to create a new reality. You're aligning your perception with the perfect spiritual reality that already exists beyond material appearances. This mindset revolution transforms your relationship with every challenge you face. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic by addressing the biggest obstacle you'll likely encounter when shifting from asking to receiving. This challenge is so universal that nearly everyone experiences it, and overcoming it represents a major milestone in your spiritual journey. The first and most significant hurdle is the persistent feeling that you're doing absolutely nothing. Asking feels active, powerful, like you're taking charge of your life and spirituality. Receiving, in contrast, often feels passive, lazy, even like you're giving up. Your ego will scream, "You have to ask, you have to pursue, you have to make things happen." This internal resistance is where most people abandon the practice and return to desperate asking. The revelation that changes everything is recognizing that this discomfort is actually a sign of progress. You're experiencing the dissolution of ego patterns that have dominated your spiritual life. The feeling of doing nothing is actually the feeling of stopping your interference with divine flow. When this resistance arises, and it will, remind yourself, asking is the energy of separation and lack. Receiving is the energy of oneness and abundance. The transformation requires tremendous trust to stop asking and simply open yourself to what God is already giving. You're not being passive, you're being receptive, which is profoundly active in the spiritual dimension. Think of it like learning to float in water. When you first try, your body tenses and you sink. Only when you fully relax and trust do you discover the water naturally supports you. Drop "I'm learning to float" in the comments if you're ready to trust the divine current to carry you. Expect to face another significant challenge on this journey: the gap between when you shift your consciousness and when you see tangible results in your life. This is where patience becomes your greatest ally. You might practice receiving consciousness faithfully for days or weeks without any visible change in your circumstances. Your bank account still empty, your body still manifesting symptoms, your relationship still strained. The temptation becomes overwhelming to abandon receptivity and return to the familiar territory of asking, bargaining, and pleading with God. Joel Goldsmith addressed this challenge specifically in his teachings. He explained that consciousness shift always precedes manifestation shift. Your inner transformation must stabilize before your outer world reflects it. This delay isn't a sign of failure. It's actually a necessary part of the process, a purification period where your new consciousness is taking root. The breakthrough insight here is understanding that this delay serves as a test of authenticity. It reveals whether you're truly receiving or just asking in a different way. Are you practicing receptivity because you trust God or because you want results? When you face this delay, and most people do, use it to deepen your practice rather than abandon it. Behind the scenes, powerful transformations are occurring in your spiritual awareness, even when nothing appears to be changing in your material circumstances. The most tragic scenario, Joel witnessed repeatedly, was people who gave up just before their breakthrough. They practiced receiving for 3 weeks, saw no results, and returned to desperate asking, missing the manifestation that was about to appear. Trust the unseen process of consciousness transformation, even when circumstances haven't caught up yet. The outer always follows the inner, but there's often a gap between the two. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic by exploring how to integrate receptivity into your daily life, beginning with your morning routine. Most people start their day in asking mode, seeking strength for challenges, guidance for decisions, protection from problems, success in endeavors. This immediately establishes a consciousness of lack and separation. What if you began instead from a foundation of receptivity? Instead of waking up to worry and petition, start with, I open myself to receive all that God is pouring into this day. I am receptive to divine guidance, energy, love, and wisdom. This simple mindset pivot changes your entire day's vibrational signature. You're no longer approaching life from deficit, needing God to give you what you don't have. You're moving through your day from abundance, recognizing that divine substance is already flowing. Your only job is to notice it, receive it, allow it. This receptive posture attracts opportunities, insights, and connections that asking consciousness automatically blocks. Throughout your day, practice micro moments of receiving. Before a difficult conversation, instead of asking God for the right words, receive, I am open to divine wisdom speaking through me. Before a challenging task, instead of asking for strength, receive, I receive the infinite energy that is my true nature. Each situation becomes an opportunity to embody receptivity rather than reinforce lack. If this approach resonates with your spiritual journey, write morning receptivity in the comments. You've now learned several practical approaches to shifting from asking to receiving, but let's explore the more advanced territory of what Joel Goldsmith called impersonal meditation. This represents a profound evolution in receiving consciousness that addresses a subtle trap many spiritual seekers fall into. They stop asking God for material things, but start asking for spiritual experiences instead, enlightenment, mystical visions, or spiritual powers. This is just asking in disguise, a more sophisticated form of the same consciousness. True receiving is impersonal, wanting nothing, including spiritual attainment. In impersonal meditation, you practice receiving without any agenda whatsoever. You're not receiving to get healing. You're not receiving to manifest abundance. You're not even receiving to become more spiritual. You're simply resting in receptive awareness for its own sake. This mindset revolution represents the highest form of spiritual practice Joel taught. Sit in complete stillness and openness. No goals, no desires, no spiritual ambitions. Just pure receptivity to whatever is. This might feel empty or pointless at first. Your mind will panic and ask, what's the point if I'm not getting anything? But this very question reveals the hidden truth about your current relationship with spirituality. You're still treating it as a transaction. The journey into impersonal meditation gradually transforms your entire approach to the divine. You stop experiencing spirituality as a means to an end and start experiencing it as an end in itself. God becomes not a resource to tap, but a presence to dwell in. This blueprint for transformation changes everything about how you live and move through the world. Though few people reach this level quickly, it represents the natural evolution of receiving consciousness. The progression moves from asking for specific things to open receiving to simply dwelling in divine presence without agenda, a return to your natural state of being. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic by exploring what Joel Goldsmith described as the ultimate truth behind all spiritual practice. This revelation brings together everything we've discussed and illuminates why the shift from asking to receiving is so transformative. The ultimate truth Joel revealed is this: you are not separate from God trying to receive gifts from an external source. You are the very consciousness of God receiving awareness of your own infinite nature. When you practice receiving, you're not getting something new. You're removing the veil that blocked your recognition of what has always been yours. This is why asking never truly worked. You were essentially asking yourself to give yourself what you already possessed. You were demanding that God provide what God has never stopped providing. The problem was never God's unwillingness to give. The problem was your inability to receive because your consciousness was focused on lack rather than abundance, on separation rather than oneness. The impact of this revelation is immeasurable. Every moment you spend in receptive awareness, you're practicing the truth of your being. You're not becoming spiritual. You're recognizing the spirituality that has always been your essential nature. Share removing the veil in the comments if you're beginning to glimpse this ultimate truth about your relationship with the divine. Now you understand the profound wisdom Joel Goldsmith discovered, that your spiritual journey isn't about convincing God to give you things, but about opening yourself to receive what's already yours. This shift from asking to receiving doesn't just change how you pray. It transforms your entire relationship with the divine and with life itself. If this message resonated with you today, I'd love to know. Simply write, "I choose to receive," in the comments to let me know you made it to this deeper understanding. Your journey of receptivity is just beginning, and each day of practice brings you closer to experiencing the fullness that has always been within you. I create these videos because I believe these transformative spiritual insights can change lives. They certainly changed mine. If you found value in today's exploration, consider subscribing to join our community of spiritual seekers who are learning to shift from separation consciousness to oneness awareness. A gentle tap on the like button helps others discover this teaching too, creating ripples of transformation that extend far beyond what we can see. For those ready to take the next step in practicing receptivity, I've created a video that explores the practical daily habits that reinforce receiving consciousness. It's right here on your screen. Click and join me there as we continue this journey together. Remember, you're not becoming something new. You're simply recognizing what you've always been, one with the infinite source of all good.